So there was a question about the apparent circularity of to get happiness, to get peace, and so on. You require meditation, and yet you have to get peace before you go into meditation. So there seems to be a kind of circularity here, and I have to now say, I said that, but I was quoting. So where was I quoting from? I was quoting from the Bhagavad Gita, and it mentions this in two places, in a sense. So, nasti buddhye yuktasya nacha yuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayata shanti ashantasya kuta sukham. That's the passage. So, there's no spiritual understanding, says this passage in the Bhagavad Gita, for the uncontrolled, nor can that person meditate. So let's just take that part of that passage. You see, in your waking life, the mind gets distracted by 100,000 different things. Unless we're able to acknowledge that we are separate from the thinking apparatus. You see, the Sanskrit for mind is not really mind as such. The Sanskrit for it is, it regards it as an internal instrument, antakarana. This is the external instrument, which is the body. The body is the interface between the external world and the internal world. We can divide it like that. This internal world is an instrument as well. It's an object as much as the body is an object. Now, the normal way of understanding things is the body is not an object. The things that it relates to outside, that is the object. So there are a series of objects. When we study such Upanishads as the Taittiriya Upanishad, we get the understanding that we can be an observer of various fields. Not just one field. Overall, one field, but let's give you an example. So I can look, as it were, out there. Let's say I see trees and flowers and people and activities. The eyes are seeing it. Even the ears are hearing the sounds associated with it. And that is being observed by, let us say, the eyeball. But the eyeball can be scratchy one moment, refresh the next. You can put eye drops in it. You can even put a lens inside it artificially, and it helps you see. So the eye itself and all the other senses, these are subject to our scrutiny. There is in each case an observer and a field that is being observed. So in the first case, the sense organs on the outside of the skin are picking up all the sensations one at a time. They can't do it totally, efficiently, collectively. The attention has to be there. One other factor is the attention has to be there. So for example, you may be listening to me, and then there may be a car crash outside. And then the attention immediately goes from what I'm saying, and everybody rushes to window to see was there an accident. Now, if you manage to close the eyes and register what are you hearing, you may hear 5, 6 different types of things. But you see, if I ask you to tell me what were they, you'll see that you are focusing on, let us say, item number 5. Items 1 to 4 were fading into the background. Then you shifted, and you were able to hear item number 4, and then 5, 3, 2, 1 are in the background. Fortunately for us, we can only manage to steer our attention to one object at a time. Otherwise, the whole thing will be a complete confusion. You won't get any sleep. We can never manage the whole totality. We can only manage things in terms of sections. That's how we are designed. Anything short of that will result in all kinds of madness. But you see, there's some observer looking at the senses, And then there are all the internal senses which are there. When you close the eyes, you can still picture the traffic going by. Supposing I tell you, please do not think of an elephant. Then you close your eyes, immediately a picture of elephant comes. I must not think of elephant, elephant comes. So when we close the external organs, the internal organs have their play. And if we're completely unconscious of the outside world, that replay in terms of adventures comes out as dreams. Dreams being sleep plus memory, and sleep with sleep, even that goes. And we are the observer of all of this. So we can observe all the activities, the comings and goings in the mental field. Simultaneously, we can also see all the activities going on in the sense field and in the objective field. We can see all the activities going on in all the activities of that aspect of the so-called mind, the internal instrument, which is the intellect. We can make decisions, we can receive final impressions, and we can make a choice between this or that. What we might call free will, even though it's a kind of misleading term, because when we will something, it's not really free. It's all conditioned by the objects. Anyway, we can call it free choice or whatever you like. We can observe it. We can observe that we held some view yesterday. We changed our mind today. And some people have cleaner minds than others because they change them more often. But then you see there's an ultimate viewer, an ultimate seer. And that seer can never be seen. It's a knower. The knower can never be known. That is your final, essential self. And the rest is a mixture of persona. That means a construction of a mask. Your personality, your character, your behaviors, whether it's unconscious, conscious. And within this internal instrument, every impression is registered and kept. It's necessary to keep that. What we call evolution is a collection of memories from way, way back, maybe something like 4 billion years ago. And collectively, an experience accumulates until we arrive at a multicellular organism capable of discussing these matters with a human brain. Such a complex network of neurons firing instantly, quicker than you may even think the speed of light. So this is the process. Now, we identify, unfortunately, with the instrumentation. That is our only real error. Our error is not to evaluate the world presented in front as it actually is. It's a fleeting film. I know a film looks as if it's a continuum, but actually when you go to the, in a cinema, you go to the operational room, the film room, and you'll see that there's a film made up of different small still photographs. And that is played at such a speed that the eye doesn't see the individuality of the pictures. It sees a continuum in time. There's a flow to it. But in the film studio, there would have been a cut of one section, a splicing of another. Same thing in music. You can cut a section here, splice it and join it up somewhere else. So to our ear, it sounds like a continuous sound, continuous concert. So this is the way that the senses are operating, because this is the way we have to interpret the world. But we don't have to identify with it. We can interpret it through the sense organs, through the mind, through the intellect, but we don't have to identify with it. Interpretation and identification can be different. When we make that separation, that separated state is called meditation. When we come to a point whereby all the adventurous thoughts that we have can bring the mind into such a condition that a self-revelation occurs. So meditation doesn't begin with the sitting. Meditation begins with controlling the senses. There's no spiritual understanding, nasti buddhye ayuktasya. For the uncontrolled, we have to control in order to get our understanding of our own spiritual nature, that deep, deep observer. Nor can that person meditate, because as soon as you sit down, 100,000 pictures come up. All the adventures and difficulties, so-called difficulties and relationships and concerns. There are some people who would rate themselves as workaholics. There are some personalities more prone to it than others. You have to be a success at work. Work is difficult. You carry the work home with you. And there are sensible people who recommend as soon as you get to your domicile, you take off your jacket or whatever it is you're wearing, or your work clothes, you hang them up, and with that, you demarcate your working life with your home life and leave it there. And some people with families have no choice because the family demands are there, which automatically take your mind away from the majority of your life. Supposing your waking life or your cycle of living is divided into 8 hours working and 8 hours recreation, 8 hours sleep. Supposing that's a classical thing, something of that nature, then you have roughly 24 hours or so to do all your things. And yet, in modern life, people's pace says that instead of working 8 hours, some people are working 15, 16 hours, depriving themselves of sleep. And then that's a continuous cycle. And of course, in spiritual life, there needs to be a timeout where you sit down by yourself and you tune the mind in, you tune your attention in to the glory of the divine internally. But the key to it is that in your working life, you are tuning your attention into the glory of the divine self. Even in the midst of working, even in the midst of walking, even in the midst of all your activities, even in the midst of speaking, listening, even in the midst of leisure, even in the midst of eating, even in the midst of exercising. That is the secret. That is the road to meditation, preparing the mind. So you have to control your attention. You have to control the impulses. You have to strengthen your will so that when you do sit down for meditation, then it becomes easy and natural. So in answer to the question, why do you come here to meditate, doing a meditation workshop? Why? It's a kind of interview. Oh, to get peace of mind? No. Go and get peace of mind first. Settle yourself in the world. Control your instrument. And once you've done that, then you're ready for meditation. Otherwise, you won't be able to do it. This passage acknowledges it very clearly. So it says, you see, without this meditation, there is no peace. Yes. But in order to get this condition of meditation, then you have to go and get your peace as well. So two different types of peace is there. One is more like contentment, more like an inner joy, living life to the fullest with an internal rapturous sense of joy. People come under the stress and feel drained of energy because invariably the activities that they're doing in so-called normal life, they're not enjoying. If you find enjoyment and a complete refreshment in all the activities that you're doing, you can see the obvious examples of this when people, for example, have an occupation. Their profession, let's say, is music. It's hard work because they have to rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse every day, but it's something that they love. And very often you may be doing something that you don't necessarily love. So that if you're a golfer, then you may be on the golf course on the weekend, but things are difficult from Monday to Friday, because while you're doing your activity, you would rather be on the golf course. Your attention is drawn off there. So there has to be a technique that we call karma yoga. Karma relating to work, activities. And karma from the root kr simply means that activities. And all activities really involve mental activity. You won't get tired by doing mental work. You'll get tired by doing physical work, no doubt. But mental work, you don't spend any energy. It's only anxiety that the energy expenditure occurs. So do things in a calm, non-anxious way. And how you develop that is not looking to the future for rewards, being detached from all the results. I'm doing this to get that. That's called action. I'm doing this without any concern, whether it's success, whether it's a failure, whether there'll be some reward at the end of it. Not at all. I'm simply doing it to control. When you drive a car, you're not driving it to achieve something. You're driving it in order to control the car in a safe way. This is just a normal routine. Now, of course, you may be in a car to get from A to B. That may be your intention. But unless your mind is focused in this present moment, you'll be driving along the motorway and somebody will suddenly stop in front of you. And if you're not attending to this present moment, if you're thinking of whether you'll be late or this or that and the other, the chances are you'll absent-mindedly plow into the car in front. So this is concentration. Settling the attention in this present moment is concentration. Doing it with a sense of internal joy, revaluing everything in front as a glorious moment, will not only elevate your mind, but it will enhance your concentration because it's a joyous thing. This is the art of karma yoga. That is action now done in a steady, concentrated way that is devoid of stress, mental stress. The whole of this yoga system is to clarify the mind, to settle all these waves in the internal instrument, so that the deep, deep essence of your own being may be clearly revealed by itself. Meditation is not there to do it. Meditation is there to clarify the mind. Karma yoga is there to clarify the mind. And all of it is dedicated toward the ultimate revelation of freedom, your own freedom. So without meditation, there's no peace. And without peace, how can one have joy? How can we have happiness, sukham? Nacha bhavayataha shanti ashantasya kutaha sukham. Without this meditation, there is no peace. Without peace, how can one have happiness? Now, this is a cleverly phrased stanza, because it's suggesting to the mind some things in question form. If you really disagree with somebody, it's a good technique not to, or make a point that you know will have resistance. It's a good technique not to say, I disagree with you. It's a wonderful technique to ask a person a question. What do you think? How do you think that's going to work? Supposing at our ashram, I feel, maybe, and just hypothetically, of course, that maybe the thrust of the activities is going in a direction that is not helpful to the majority of people here. instead of making a confrontation, I will need to say, well, where do you think it all lead? Don't you think we should do this? What's your opinion? And human nature enjoys flattery, and they'll come up with some reasoning, but they've had to think about it. So it's put into a question, and the process then is this: self-control, then meditation, then peace, then happiness. That's very clearly the order of things. Now, Patanjali Yoga Sutras puts it in an 8-step way. So the control is called yama, and the refinement of it is called niyama. It is designed to strengthen the will. It's designed to create a moral background. It's designed to create a purity of mind, to prepare oneself for this formal meditation. And then that, of course, is followed by the process of dhyana with various steps. Make sure that your seat is well, make sure that you're in a state where you can eliminate any discomfort or distraction of the body, or distraction of the nervous system, or distraction of all other activities in the mind. And then the process, the internal process starts, namely concentration. Concentration followed by meditation, followed by absorption. This is the process. We can say dhyana followed by ananda, bliss. And so the passage continues. It says, Indriyanam hi charatamnyam mano nuvidiyati tadasya harati prajnam vayu namam yuambasi. Just as a huge gale or huge wind carries away a ship on the high seas, on the waters, the mind that yields to the wandering senses carries away your discrimination. Discrimination is another term for valuation. When we look at the world, how do we respond to it? It depends on how we interpret it, how we value it. And this evaluation of it is the setting the scene for how we deal in a practical way with all the obstacles in front of us. Now, obstacles are not a bad thing. Life is designed to present us with obstacles. But nature has also designed us to have the capability of getting around it. And if you study any aspect of organic life, from a plant to a tree, to any number of insects, to crustaceans, to any number of millions and millions of species on the planet, you will notice that those creatures are designed to find a way. It's called survival. It's called natural selection. You take a huge tree, let's say in the Amazon rainforests, where the canopy, the forest academy, is full of very high trees. There's a strata, hierarchy of vegetation. The ferns and so on, they require more of the shelter, and they're fed from the rotting things underneath. But it is the tall trees that are there presenting their leaves to the sun, presenting their leaves to the air, going about the job of photosynthesis. You'll find that if you stop an ant, you temporarily block its path, you remove the trace that it's following, the trail that it's following. It will run, it'll go in different, until it finds the path again. Famously, Robert the Bruce regained his courage by watching the determination of a spider. And so this determination to survive, this determination to continue, is evidence that behind everything is existence. Very often, it's a common practice today it's becoming less common, but in the Western world, to take an atheistic position. There has always been atheists, of course. To take an atheist position and bring in a partner of science to support it, and to try and say that nature can do everything. Well, it's another way of saying that you take non-existence for granted. But I don't know how we can take non-existence for granted, because every single struggle we see in the whole of life is evidence of an existence, a will to exist at all costs, a will to perpetuate life and existence. You know, even the atomic structure, we have a mass, you know, the nucleus of the atom is so far removed from the electrons or the electrical energy that is surrounding it, the cloud of electrons around it. To give you some example, supposing you have a big soccer field and you say this represents the atom, then the proton is the size of a golf ball in the middle of the field. And so if you want to say where's the edge of it, you have to go to the edge of the football field. In relation to the golf ball, it's nothing. How does the whole mechanism work? How does the proton know to have more mass and hold the electron in its environment, as it were? How does the electron, that is not a thing and doesn't do what things do, operating as a kind of amorphous cloud with so much uncertainty? But why doesn't it fly off totally and completely? Sometimes, of course, it does. And then we have an isotope. But you see, the whole of nature is arranged so harmoniously, so perfectly, that our natural inference would be to say, something behind is existing, and you cannot get something out that wasn't there in the first place. You cannot get consciousness unless consciousness is there in the beginning. And even if you say beginning, well, who says there's a beginning? Maybe it's just a perpetual thing. So our discrimination is a way of seeing the divine in everything, on the one hand. On the other, seeing the relative existence for what it is, something that is fleeting. And ultimately registering the whole thing to not only the effective cause, the efficient cause, but also the material cause. And so we have to make our senses extremely steady. We have to do that by having a different outlook, shifting our attention in a different way, so that what some people see in order to survive, we are seeing in a completely different way. We are seeing it as the presence of a glorious existent entity that is also pure consciousness, and behind it also is bliss. We call it Sat Chit Ananda, the essence of all of that. The evidence of evolution with its survival of the fittest components and its natural selection is because there is existence. And everybody can doubt everything, but nobody can doubt the existence of themselves. And if you do, if you lack faith in yourself, Swami Vivekananda suggests you are actually the atheist. The atheist, by new definition, is that one who lacks faith or belief in themselves, since the fundamental essence of the whole universe is right inside you. There's absolutely no difference. So, if you were to take what are the instructions on meditation itself, and if we are to continue picking up the Bhagavad Gita, we have to go to the 6th chapter. 6th chapter is entirely dedicated to meditation. And so we have this Aruruksha Mune Yogam Karma Karanam Uchate Yoga Rudyasya Tasyeva Samaha Karanam Uchate. For that person of contemplation, Contemplation comes before meditation. Who wants to attain this state of concentration or meditation that is said to be the means? Contemplation is said to be the means, but when the person has attained this state of concentration, then he does it or she does it through the process of serenity. But it begins with this. It begins with taking responsibility for your own destiny and your own actions. But when a person has no attachment to the sense objects or the actions and has renounced, detached himself or herself from all self-centered will or thoughts, called sankalpas, then alone is one said to have attained a level of meditation or concentration. But it begins at the ground level. And I'm keen to repeat the passage over and over again. Udared atmanatvanam, atmanam avasadayat, atmeva hyatmano, bandhu atmeva ripo atmanaha. Let a person raise himself up by himself, not drag himself down. What does it mean? Make sure that your attention is tuned to the highest values, not dragged down to the lowest egocentric positions. For he himself is his own friend, and he himself is his own enemy. You think the other person is your enemy, you think your job is your enemy, you think people are against you, you yourself are your own enemy. You say, some people say, you see, oh, the weather is the cause of my mood. An overcast weather, cloudy day. Yes, now that's why I'm feeling miserable. No, how can clouds affect you in this way? You yourself are responding. You can raise your mood up or lower it down. Oh, this person's work is causing me stress. My work is causing me stress. No, your response to it is causing you stress. Find a different formula, please. Find a way around it. You have the capacity to transform your own life. And so, bandhu atman tvanastasya yenatve vatvana jitaha anatmanas tu shatrute vartita tvai va shatrut. To that person who has conquered his body and senses, that is his mind, by the internal self, the controlling element, then your own self, that person's own self, is a friend. But to the person who has not conquered his lower self, lower nature, his own self acts just like an enemy. So the self-disciplined, the serene person, remains what? Steadfast. Steadfast in the Supreme Self. In that place of poise within you, remain steady, unreactive, regardless whether it's cold, whether it's hot, whether there is pleasure, whether it's pain, whether it's honor, whether it's dishonor, whether somebody flatters you, you puff your chest out and feel good, or somebody criticizes you, the shoulders hunch over, oh, poor me, what a pity. Where's the rope to hang myself? So, in meditation, we have to make sure that our whole mind is prepared, that our whole responses are prepared. Now, in one of the thoughts I gave, I'm not sure when it was, yesterday, the other day, I gave some 4 R's. Can you remember what they were? We can make this interactive, not just a talk. Can you remember what the 4 R's are? Nobody? Come on.
Yes, I don't remember all of them. The first one is revelation. Re-evaluation.
Well, the first one is reaction.
Is reaction first, yes.
Yes. It comes from your habit level. Something happens and you react. And many people say, well, how can I control that reaction? And the answer is, you control it after the initial reactive phase. You can't control that. It comes. It's an old friend, probably from your childhood. It comes up. So you react, but you notice the reaction. That's the thing. Because you're not the instrument, you can look at it, you can steer it, you can control it. So the first thing is react. Second thing is, whoa, wait, find out what happened. Let us now review it. What happened? What went on? Then the next thing is you can revalue it, put it into a different context. Outgrow, put an adult view on it, if you want to put it, a more mature view on it, a more accurate and truthful view on it. And then create another reaction which is completely positive. These are the 4 ways of dealing with things. That's the game. Look carefully, always remain alert, remain awake at all times and alert, and watch for the old friends to come up as a response to the things which are happening around you. And have a chuckle, because these are old friends who came for tea. And as you know, I'm very fond of tea. And for your information, you cannot get moksha without tea, as you know. So please come along, have a dialogue. Come if you can. Come if you want, stay if you can, go if you must, have some cup of tea, have a biscuit or something, and go off. I'll escort you out the door because other friends are waiting, new friends, new values, strength and truth and beauty and goodness and love and harmony. These are all new friends which are waiting to come in, filling the blank checks called a second. And so I'm making a new habit. So I'm replacing the old habit which was dragging me down and making a new habit that is lifting me up. And once the habit level is nicely settled, meditation is a process of gliding into the glory of the divine self. Make it a gliding movement, not a struggle. So that is what I would have to say. Right, come on, ask some other question now.
Yes, Swami. Another question, I don't know if I can formulate it very clearly, is, of course, I understand that the waking state creates memory which will influence the dream state, but is there also a reverse part, the influence of the dream state on the daily life, or something like that? Or how could we... what is the value of these dream states? What should we do with this?
Well, we don't have much of a choice, because when the eyes close and the dream comes, then some people can edit their dreams, of course, there's no doubt. So let's deal with it from the psychological point of view. From the psychological point of view, dreams are valuable. From the philosophical point of view, dreams are the voice of God. So let me try to explain. So there's no doubt that all the events in a dream come from memories of the waking state that are put into the memory bank, a kind of library of events, so that whatever we are having difficulty with all goes into that deposit account. Naturally, when we are not in any controlling way, the conscious mind is not there, only the unconscious mind is there, bringing out a number of things. Now, you know yourself, that's a very Irish way of saying it, you know yourself that if you have a problem, let us say let's say it's an engineering problem even, the minute you stop thinking about it consciously, don't think that that's the end of the thinking. The unconscious mind is continuing the thought-thinking process, so many discoveries happen in a dream. There are famous examples of golf swings being corrected. I think the light bulb was discovered in a dream. The unconscious mind is continuously working, so there are different types of dreams. Problem-solving dreams is one type. Wish-fulfilling dreams is a type. Many different categories of dreams are there. And for this reason, it was Freud, the great psychologist, the pioneer of modern Western psychology anyway, stated that dreams are the royal road to the unconscious. And so all the existent cultures that have learned not to unlearn dreams, they all know and are aware of the value of dreams and can all interpret them. The American Indians have a dream catcher. The Aboriginal people of Australia have dream time. The people of Africa, they all know what dreams mean. It is only us, wise, sophisticated, developed people who have lost this great art of dreaming because we've dismissed it as it's just a mere dream. So we can attend to the dreams, of course. And the dreams are full of symbolic events that are coming from the waking state. And so we can attend to them. We don't dismiss them. Now, there's another reason why we don't dismiss them. Because the waking state is a conscious dream. What does that mean? It means that without time, without space, without causation, and we can even put in without function, the waking state is not existing. You're going to just do the exercise, take time away. I think I've done this with you before. You take time away, I warn you. So in 3 minutes, we'll take time away. So make sure your hair is nicely combed. Make sure that you have a good smile on your face. You adjust the lenses and so on and so forth. 1, 2, 3. Everybody stays still. Nobody moves. Because time is still. Nothing is happening. Well, that's not how we view life. Life is not still. So life has to function because there is something that is called time, whatever that may be. It's a way of registering. There is a change, there is a movement somewhere. And all movement involves change of some kind. All right, let's take space away. Once you take space away, all objects have disappeared. Because space has these 3 dimensions, X, Y, and Z aspects of it, summarized maybe as X meaning space. It has 3 dimensions within it. So we cannot manage without the structure of space and time. Now time and space are both taken away in deep sleep, dreamless sleep. And that's the only difference. So in a dream, there is time and there is space. Otherwise, there are no objects and there's no motion. In a waking state, these same components are there. They are tested out. In a dream, a tiger is attacking you. You may wake up in a sweat. If you merely felt it was a dream at the time of dreaming and not real, then why would you react in this way? So a dream is as real or unreal as the waking state, and that whole issue is brought up in the Mandukya Upanishad that analyzes these various states of consciousness. 3 trains coming and going, us observing the 3 trains from a static observation point, not going anywhere. For this reason, we're able to register there is something that is existent that doesn't come and go because there has to be an observation point. And there has to be this objective, or these objects, collectively called 3 states of consciousness. And the observation aspect, curiously called Turiya, which simply means the 4th. By reviewing these things, we come to one conclusion. Also, by reviewing all the activities going on in the mental field, we come to one conclusion. I'm not that. I'm not caught in a cage. I am free. I can observe things, but I seem to be free. Somebody tells you as a philosopher, no, you're already free. Then why do I feel bound is the next question. But you don't always feel bound. In a deep sleep, you don't feel bound. When you review it all, you don't feel bound. In meditation, you don't feel bound. You don't always feel bound. Only when you associate with this framework of time and space and causation do you feel bound. You can say it's a kind of invisible network seeming to entrap you as a kind of imprisoned splendor, is the title of a book by Reynold Johnson, The Imprisoned Splendor. But it's not so. So we can, if we understand our status of being continuously free, we can always retreat to that free area and observe it. And when we go to that state where time and space is not there, where there's a potentiality, then that potentiality is a creative area, a potentially creative area. Now, when we say that dreams are the voice of God, we have to understand how these three states are divided. And so there are rulers, if you will, inserted to help us understand. The one consciousness that is seemingly ruling three different areas. But it is all three states of consciousness, three manifestations of one consciousness. And the crudest of all will be the waking state. Presumably you're all in it now, but that is actually the least real of anything else. Let's elevate it now to the area of physics. You may be curious to know that the most real world is at the micro level. It's at the level of quantum mechanics, where nothing is certain. It is that subtle area that is more real because we know it works. We are using it now on our computers. So we know that it is the most tried and tested area, if you will, or theory of physics, more so than general relativity. General relativity applies to this gross aspect. The gross aspect is the waking state. Now, for this reason, that manifested state of consciousness is ruled or is characterized by consciousness as Vishwa. And then the dream is characterized by this consciousness appearing as, or manifesting itself, as it were, as Hiranyagarbha. You may recognize these terms now. Hiranyagarbha, the golden womb, the creative womb, that is cosmic mind. So, and then what about prajna? What about the dreamless sleep? Now, does this apply in the cosmos? Yes. There is a state before creativity, a state of equilibrium, according to the Vedanta philosophy, that goes along with the Sankhya ideas on this. And what it is saying is, this area of potentiality, we can call it nature, prakriti, or we can call it the unmanifest. But it is also, of course, that area of Brahman, which is saguna, with properties. And potentially, it holds three potential components. These three potential components, we can't see that anything is happening. We call it avyakta, unmanifest, because nothing is shaking. Then all of a sudden some tremor happens. And one quality, purity, sattva, purity, goodness, love, harmony, all the highest, most pristine attributes come out, contained in what we call a personal God. It's a cosmic mind, Hiranyagarbha. It is about now to create in terms of ideas. It is the cosmic dream state, and ultimately manifests as the world that we interpret today. And don't forget, our interpretation of the world is completely different to the interpretation of any other species with different sense organs. Some 500 million years ago, there would have been certain crustaceans, certain species that would have many, many more eyes than we have. And be able to see something like a range of 360 degrees, a long range, and with greater sophistication than our own human eye, imagine. And these are our biological ancestors. So you see, this gets manifested ultimately in the so-called world we know, and depending on the interpretive organs, namely the sense organs, our world will look a certain way. If you change it, it'll look different. If you reduce it, it'll look different. If you increase it, it'll look different. So it's no wonder that different species are looking at things in a different way. Their world is a different world. Not to mention the world of bacteria, where their universe is the infinite body that we have. Billions and billions of bacteria occupying the human body, making it their dwelling place. And to them, if they were as conscious as we are, they would see comets flying by, they would see vast stars and universes far away and so on, not knowing these are blood vessels, not knowing that these are digestive things going on, not knowing that there is an electronic exchange going on and so on, all these various things, not knowing the transfer, the ATP, etc. mechanism, the phosphate exchange and so on, not knowing any of these things, wondering. Imagine if they had scientific minds and they're wondering, what kind of universe is this? It is vast. It seems to be infinite for us, with no boundaries. It's all a matter of scale. That's why we call it relativity. Our world is a relative reality only. It is real in as far as it is relative. This world is full of colors and forms relative to the eyes. The sounds that we hear within the range of the ear, they are real relative to the range that we can catch. But what is the ultimate reality? It is that which doesn't change at all. It simply remains in its pristine condition, as it were. It's not even conditioned. Words fail us. Anyway, so these are good questions. So what is the value of these three states? The value is to indicate that we are not that. A whole Upanishad is there for that reason. What is the value of a dream itself? The voice of God, because it's ruled by God. The voice of God. If you have the skill to do it or recapture the skill, then you'll be able to get the lessons from it. Carl Jung and Freud spent a lot of time interpreting the meaning of dreams in order to help people's psychological conditions. So I think it's a valuable thing, there's no doubt. As long as we leave it, as long as we keep it away from superstition. Well, I think that time is up probably, so I won't delay you anymore. So thanks for your questions. I hope they were helpful and useful. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Thanks.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Swami.
Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.